falls down like a soft-spoken prayer on every quiet village from Portland up to Prescott way up there. And though the mills have shuttered and the war feels cold again, still a candle glows in every window for the hearts of hurt in Maine. Children watch the waves of winter rolling hard upon the shore, wondering what the future holds, if hope still lives here anymore. But in the hush of frozen pine, God whispers through the pain, I know the storm you're walking through, I'll make a way again. It's a Maine Christmas under long December skies, where the love of God surrounds us like the lights on coastal pines. And though our weary hands are trembling and our burdens feel like chains, Christmas still is beautiful for the suffering souls of Maine. Yes, we're held by God Almighty, and He's guiding through the night. He is carving out a pathway by His everlasting light. Dust in the fields, rotting the beams, years in your pocket but none in your dreams. Same tired eyes, same tired plans, a fire in your chest but no place to land. Steps on a road that never bends, they smile when you lose, they wait for the end. Hope slips away, soft as the rain. The wheel keeps turning, but it don't change a thing. What if you want, but the path just folds? Speak your truth, but the air stays cold. They dig in deep, they won't feel the flame. You will never, never break that chain. Never break that chain. Lips full of salt, eyes full of gray. Don't reach too high, they always say. Your hands are young, your thoughts are wild, but time here runs like a fatherless child. The roots are thick, the roots are proud. They drink the sky, they choke the ground. You scream in waves, you break in vain. Still they whisper, keep things the same. Run if you want, but the path just folds. Speak your truth, but the air stays cold. They dig in deep, they won't feel the flame. You will never, never break that chain. Never break that chain.
poorest way to face life is to face it with a sneer. There are many men who feel a kind of twisted pride and cynicism. There are many who confine themselves to criticism of the way others do what they themselves dare not even attempt. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. That role is easy, but the credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again. Because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those who neither know victory nor defeat.
Born to move, built to stand, freedom forged by working hands. Raise the flag, hold the line. We were made for this time. Got a strong spirit wide. We don't run, we don't hide. We are the stars of freedom, we carry the flame. We fight, we pray, we rise again. God bless the brave, God bless the land. We are the stars, we take a stand. Voices loud, hearts alive. Every stripe, every right. From the fields to city steel, we are truth, we are real. Bound by grace, built to last. We don't fear the storm we pass. We are the stars of freedom, we carry the flame. We fight, we pray, we rise again. God bless the brave, God bless the land. We are the stars, we take a stand.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Hello. Hello. Yes, it's New Year's. It's New Year's. We made it. We made it. That's enough. That's enough. That's enough. All right. All right. We made it. We made it. 2026 is nearly over. Almost over. There's a lot of things that can go wrong in the next few hours, but it's mostly over. All right. Now, to walk us through this, it's been sort of a perpetual time loop for a lot of people out there. So here's a bit of a meme. Now we're leaving 2019. You remember 2019 when the world wasn't as screwed up as it is now? Ah, yes, fine, 2019. When we were still arguing about where to use the bathroom instead of who's stealing from us this week. You see that? And now we're entering 2026. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. Here's the music. Gotta love it. But speaking of things we gotta love, though, you gotta love Indian construction. All right, you gotta love Indian construction. So, spoiler alert: the bridge gave out. But the funny thing about this is the second time that this bridge has collapsed during its construction. Not that it was just out there hanging out and some flood came through and ruined it. It was just minding its own business, and the bridge decided to collapse just like this. Isn't that great? You guys don't need to hear the bridge collapse, but yeah, there it is. Just all that bridge tumbling into the water for the second time. For the second time over there in India. I'm told that we need all this foreign labor because Americans won't do it, and I'm thinking that that's okay. I'm thinking that it's okay to just, just not do it. We don't need bridges. We'll build flying cars. This is a little unnerving to think that we're just importing people from around the world that can't build a bridge. Yet we're being told that we need them, or else the whole wheels are going to come off the entire wagon and everything's going to fall apart, right? Gotta love that, right? Gotta love that feeling in the bottom of your heart of something's wrong, and I don't know if I'm powerful enough to stop it. You gotta love that feeling, right? That's where they want you. But we do need to bring back attention to things that are happening on this side of the Pacific. That's right. Over in Minnesota, there's a hot dog, and it's afraid of something. This is a frightened hot dog right here. See, when I first saw this picture of this lady and her fake Supreme phone cover, it doesn't matter. I'm not a Supreme guy. It's a brand. It's a useless brand. They just write Supreme on everything, and people go, oh my gosh, that's a Supreme thing. I gotta have it. Stupid. Anyway, this woman, again, idolatry is a problem inside of Islam, where, we'll get into that someday. Probably not this show. But as you can see, this person's very freaked out. And I didn't notice that it was like a full-on hot dog character. But I looked at her and I was like, is that person wearing a hot dog costume? Like one of those Temu hot dog costumes where they don't get the color right exactly? And then Planet of Memes decided to just home run it here with the picture of the scared hot dog man. I don't know why the scared hot dog man is scared, but I know why the Somali lady's scared. I know why. Because Homeland Security has arrived in Lewiston. Uh-oh, everybody. Uh-oh. DHS is knocking down the door to find out what's going on over here in Lewiston. Now, you might think, well, that's a bit overwhelming, right? That's a bit too much. Why isn't ICE handling this? Why isn't the FBI handling this? Well, why don't we find out just where that money is going? That's right. Al-Shabaab, I think that's how you say that. Shabaab, I don't know. I don't speak Sandland. So Al-Shabaab thanks the infidel Mainers. That's you and me. That's you and me paying our taxes, making sure we follow the law. It says your Maine tax dollars paid for guerrilla warfare, suicide bombings and IEDs, targeted mass assassinations, propaganda and information warfare to recruit new fighters, government coercion, establishing Sharia courts. We love Sharia courts. Of course we love Sharia courts. Not really, of course not. But anyway, thousands of kidnappings and forced recruitment. Kind of the same thing, but, there is the other end of kidnapping that, doesn't go so well. You're not handed a gun, let's put it that way. So you might be asking yourself, wow, how do we fix this? Well, it gets worse. It gets worse. So this over here at WC Dispatch, the political theater, this was posted by Walter Kurt, by the way. I'm not sure if Mr. Walter is the man in the video here. Mr. Kurt is the man in the video here, but we're going to find out. I'm going to turn that down just a little bit so he's not barking at you. Let's take a look. Listen to this.
An LLC can be owned entirely by a 501c3. Did you know that? I didn't know that. That's something that's apparently new, or maybe it's not new. Maybe it's something that's always existed, but apparently it's
He's talking about NGOs, okay? Non-government organizations, the people that are getting our money in order to help these people.
Called some sort of entity that is just, it's a disregarded entity. So apparently, if the LLC operates in the mission of the 501c3, it can then funnel all of its profit back to the nonprofit.
What a surprise. So a business that its objective is to make profit can then take that profit and funnel it back into its parent NGO. So if you're following along, let me just break this down a little bit. That's right. A non-government organization is supposed to be a non-profit organization can start a business and then take the funds from that business and pile it back into their non-profit organization that's then tax protected or gets a lesser tax rate depending on what state you're in.
You see how that works? So they create LLCs underneath a 501c3. The 501c3 owns the LLC, owns each one of these businesses, and that blanket organization then funnels all the profits from those LLCs tax-free straight back to the nonprofit because, well, it's a nonprofit. It's a 501c3, tax exempt, right?
Don't you love following the law? Don't you love following the law? Well, didn't it feel great to cut that check to old Uncle Sam back last April? You got to cut another one coming up here soon. You remember that, right?
Well, isn't that interesting? So, if you have a fraud scheme and you have a bunch of random businesses that don't do anything at all, well, then that's a pretty good way to create a massive network of money laundering.
Yes, as a matter of fact. And wouldn't you know, Al-Shabaab is the one who gets that money. That's right. Al-Shabaab is the one that's got the most power, and they are currently the de facto government over in Jabroni land, Somaliland, whatever we're calling it today. So that's what's going on, right? That's what's going on with that. So your tax dollars, my tax dollars, the money that was supposed to make sure that these people were safe from war went to funding that war. Crazy, right?
Wow. Interesting stuff. And it turns out that we have stumbled upon in the investigations that we're working on out here a ton of these things, an absolute ton of them. And I don't think any of this is legal. I mean, I would be very
It's not.
curious to see if anybody has any information about how this could be legal. I don't think it's possible.
If it was legal, Disney, Microsoft, every mega corporation would be a nonprofit organization that just pulls in tax-free money from all of their assets. Okay? So obviously it's not legal. But when you're a foreigner and don't speak English, then I guess it's legal because it would be racist for us to expect you to follow our English-speaking laws because racism.
There's no way that this is the way that this is set up properly. I think what's really going on here is that they have filed all of their companies in a way that they can figure out, you know, it's all tax-free. We're a nonprofit. We're here to benefit the, you know, Somalian kids community or some bullshit. I mean, that's all they're doing. And I guarantee you go look at each one of these businesses. And the ones that I've looked at, they don't even have like an office. They have nothing. There's nothing there. It's, you know, you look it up and it's like the backside of a motel building.
So again, he's most likely referring to the Maine Wires report on one of the Somali daycares that, oh my, I've forgotten his name now. It's not Mr. Robinson. It's the other man that's very brave to go into these places because as we know, these folks tend to forget themselves and forget where they are in the world. And a little bit of that escaping war mentality leaks out every now and then. But anyway, I digress. He's most likely referring to that. But the one thing I wanted to highlight about that commentary is that these people are not only not in these offices, but these offices are falling apart because no one's in them. They are quite literally rented properties that if someone's there, they're just charging their phone, watching YouTube videos, hanging out. They're really only there to be, I guess, present for the hours logged that the business was functioning, even though they don't do any business there, don't answer the phone, don't answer the door. The windows are all blocked up, if it even has windows. Very strange situation. Again, if you're thinking like on a legal level. But if you're thinking on a amassing assets level, this is pretty good. It's pretty good to be able to just have this place that's sitting there rotting, sinking into the ground, but it's earning you millions of dollars while your friends just hang out and presumably use the toilet. I don't know what they're up to.
I mean, that's what most of these things are. So I would love to see how the side of a motel building benefits the mission of some of these organizations. But this is how they're doing it, and no one seems to be stopping them. And in fact, the NGOs that I'm looking at are getting millions of dollars in tax funding. So we're quite literally paying the Somalian community to set up businesses to rob us. So
Right. So what's important about that is that our Maine Democrats are very passionate about keeping this cycle going. They don't see a problem with what's happening and have only been forced to acknowledge a problem because of the national conversation. Maine Wired broke this story almost a year ago now. And guess what? Maybe longer. I'm not sure. I know it's been talked about for a very long time. And the issue is that until now, the Democrats have just been saying, you're a racist for caring about this. These people are just here to get help. They're escaping war. They seem so imperiled.
So they're not paying taxes, so they're robbing the American people of tax dollars right there, and they're being paid to do so. So I guess at the end of this, who is retarded? Is it us or them?
Really? That's a really good question, right? I mean, like I said, doesn't it feel good to follow the law? Doesn't it feel good to pay your taxes on time? Doesn't it feel good to make sure that the government is approving or at the very least tolerating your existence? Isn't that just a great feeling? Meanwhile, these people are not only double dipping, they're triple double dipping, making sure that they get money from being a refugee for coverage. Then they start an NGO that's tax-free. Then they start collecting money on daycare services, elder care services, home care medical services that are not at all functional. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? So who's the stupid one here, right? Us that just keep, we're gonna talk about it. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna talk about it. Yeah. And exactly that's what happened. Now, I am not the biggest fan of the Maine Republicans down in Augusta. Okay. I don't believe that they're bad people. I want to make that abundantly clear before we start this because it's a bit of a chunky one here. I don't think they're bad people. I don't think that they're out here to help the Democrats, but I think there's been somewhat of a miscommunication over what exactly is expected out of a Maine Republican. You see, since the 50s, we've been telling ourselves that we're a moderate party, that we'll just hug it out with the Democrats. We'll just hug it out with them. So you got to remember is the Maine Republicans are constantly trying to find bipartisan routes. And this, I think, is what really is the weakness in this party is that it demands that we work with the Democrats, where the Democrats do everything in their power to take our heads off. Okay? The Maine Democrats have made it clear that they hate you, they hate me, but they love everybody else. Okay? If you're a Mainer, they hate you. If you're white, they hate you. If you're a Christian, they hate you. If you're all three of those things, buddy, good luck. Good luck out there in the world because the Maine Democrats are coming for you. They're coming hard, too. They're coming hard. And again, this is just exemplary of what we're dealing with in Maine, is that for the past 70 years, we've had our fingers in our ears saying, la, 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 we're just going to be friends. The Democrats are just antsy, that's all. They'll come to the table. They're good people. No, they're not. I'll remind you that this is on top of Title IX. This is on top of what's gone on with the foster care abuse. This is on top of what's been going on with just the random people being run down by folks handed licenses by good old Shanny Blowholes. What are we doing, right? This again, now we're going to make a speech about it. We're going to come out here and talk for 17 minutes about how bad our feelings are hurt that the media didn't carry water for this. The mainstream media, right? The issue is that I think what we're really up against is that the moderates have no power here. They have no strength. They have no footing. They're attempting to try and look tough, as you'll hear in these speeches, but the language they're using is just sort of like, hey, there's a problem, guys. They're kind of like telling their wives that like they need to get the roof fixed. You know, they're telling their wives that they need to repave the driveway. This is one of those uncomfortable conversations for them. One of the things that I know that other people would appreciate as well is some desk slamming, letting people know that we're not going to take it. Right? Well, apparently we're going to. Again, this is what I have a problem with. There's no intensity. The passion isn't there. And it seems like these people are really, really out of their depth, even trying to engage in this conversation. And this is why we keep losing this argument, is because we keep putting people up into our elected positions that are just there to be like, oh, wow, I just want to get along with everybody. I just want to hug it out. We're all here to help Maine. No, the Democrats are not. The leftists are not. I got news for you. The independents aren't either. They're not Republican and they're not Democrat for a reason. Okay? This is the hard part that a lot of people have a difficult time wrapping their heads around, is that, believe it or not everybody thinks the same way that you and I do. Not everybody believes that we should be doing our best for our state and our nation. Okay? Not everybody believes that, as we've seen with our Somali friends. So just bear that in mind as we hear all of this very, very tiring conversation that is, you and I both know, not going to lead anywhere. And I'll explain why once we're done chewing through this.
Thank you. I am Senator Matt Harrington, Assistant Senate Republican Leader here at the State House. Starting back in May, the Maine Wire first broke the story detailing allegations of serious Medicaid fraud by Gateway Community Services, and then I publicly called on the Mills administration to launch an immediate investigation. At the time, the reporting raised serious red flags, patterns of overbilling, and questionable practices. In recent weeks, we've seen massive welfare fraud scandal break out in Minnesota, and the fraud here in Maine has disturbing similarities to that in Minnesota. 7 months later, we are finally seeing some action with the suspension of funding to Gateway. But let's be clear, this did not happen because of Democratic leadership or Governor Mills suddenly deciding to act. It happened.
This is, you don't read a speech like that. I'm sorry, okay? I get what you're trying to tell me, but you're like, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It doesn't, you gotta add emphasis to this to get people to care. I'm sorry, you're living in a world full of TikTok. People run across this, hi, I'm this guy. No, no. You need to start off with, I told Janet Mills this was happening. I sent her a letter. And that's how you open this up. And then you introduce yourself. And this fraud continues to go on while you refuse to report on it. The Maine Wire had to carry this to the mainstream for anybody to care about. And that's what you start off with. You bite their heads off. Then you've got their attention. It's called a hook. It's called a hook. Then you can go into your stuff that you want to do. But this is the big problem I have with this entire press conference, is it's just, well, this is what it says on the freshly printed paper I have here. Hold on. Like they're kids standing up in the middle of a middle school class to read a passage from some Anne Hathaway book, or not Anne Hathaway, Anne something. Anne Hathaway's an actor, Anne something. I don't know.
It happened because the story would not go away. It happened because the national media continued to dig. And it happened because the federal government is now paying attention. Despite taking months for the Maine media to cover this story, we all knew this fraud was real and happening. Finally, after national media shined a light on it, Maine media is playing catch-up. Despite all of this, what remains most striking is the complete silence from Maine Democrats. Where is Governor Mills? Where is Speaker Fecteau? Where is President Daughtry? Where is the Attorney General? Where is Matt Dunlap?
So let me just clue you in, okay? This is useless to people. They don't know who those people are, and they don't care, okay? You say Fecteau, people are like, that's a last name that someone would have. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything to them. You just generalize the Democrats as a whole. Just generalize the Democrats as a whole. The criminally approving Democrats, the Democrats that want to steal everything and destroy Maine, the Democrats that have allowed and proliferated this corruption, that's all you need. Those names, you just lost people. You just lost everybody with that. That you might as well just read through a phone book, buddy. Nobody cares. That's you got to be dynamic with this.
These are not minor questions. These are people who serve Mainers and are responsible for protecting the taxpayer, and their silence is absolutely deafening. Here are the facts. A company whose CEO reportedly spent time traveling to Somalia and running for president there and organizing a privately funded militia, all while his organization was overbilling programs funded by Maine taxpayers. Where is the outrage from Maine Democrats? Where are the press conferences? Where are the calls for accountability? I believe...
And it's like he's ordering a sandwich. Like, you know, where is the accountability? Where are the Democrats on this? That's the kind of intensity you need to go out there with. Bite their heads off.
I believe what we have uncovered so far is only scratching the surface of fraud here in Maine. Why was Gateway Community Services, a company that had already received multiple notices of overbilling, allowed to sit on the steering committee to receive funding tied to the Lewiston Shooting Victims Fund?
Yeah, that happened, by the way, just so you know. For some reason, a bunch of Somali daycares and the Somali help organizations got a bunch of money to deal with the Lewiston shootings because why not?
How does a provider under scrutiny for billing abuses end up receiving money that were dedicated to helping families and survivors of one of the most tragic events in Maine history? When you begin to look at how interwoven Gateway is with Maine Democrats, the silence starts to make a whole lot more sense.
When you begin to look at the big picture, you start to see how interwoven the Democrats and the Somali community that's doing this are. That's how you read that. Not, I'd like a little bit of bacon on top of that, please, some lettuce, a little bit of mustard. It just feels like he's ordering a sandwich.
Democratic National Committee man for Maine and former Chief of Staff to Senate President Troy Jackson, B.J. McAllister, serves on the board of Community Organizing Alliance, an affiliated group of Gateway. That information was publicly available on their website until just recently that page was magically taken down. Representative Decker DeLocke, who previously worked in a leadership role at Gateway, now sits on the Appropriations Committee.
This is the one you should have opened with. Decker DeLocke is nationally recognized right now because of the mess she's created, compounded messes she's created, especially her adoring message to the Somalis that she's doing everything she can for Somalia, not Maine. Okay? That's the one you lead with. Then you work into the guy that had the militia because that's an escalating situation. You've now started with a high and gone down to something low. Okay? That backwards. Start with Decca so people understand what the situation is because, again, like I said, she's nationally recognized because of the stupid stuff she's been saying. Ta-da. Then you work your way up to the guy that was funneling Maine taxpayer dollars into fighting the Somalian wars.
The very committee responsible for overseeing how our tax dollars are spent. These are not coincidences, they are conflicts that demand scrutiny. Frankly, I do not believe we will see a fully transparent investigation carried out by anyone here in state government.
He's right about that.
Political entanglements are too deep and incentives to look the other way are too strong. Fortunately, this matter has now drawn attention of the U.S. House Oversight Committee. Congressman James Comer has launched a federal investigation and has requested bank records connected to Gateway and related entities. That is a serious step and underscores how serious these allegations are.
That is a serious step and underscores how serious these allegations are. Whereas he's like, yeah, number 45, come on up and get your chicken.
We are calling on Governor's Office staff, DHHS staff, state auditor, Democrats in the legislature, and all state agencies to fully cooperate with federal investigators examining fraud here in Maine. That means making documents available, that means answering questions, that means ending any effort to obstruct or delay the truth. Contrary to Attorney General Fry's secret directive to DHHS to avoid cooperating with the Justice Department, the scope of this alleged fraud demands the opposite approach. Maine taxpayers deserve transparency.
Yeah, right. Like, we don't even know what our money's going to at all. Like, we're just finding out about this stuff. Imagine what they've been doing for everybody else that isn't the Somalis. All of those wonderful Venezuelans and their curious connections to the drug cartels. I wonder. Remember when Venezuelans were knocking over apartments, stealing people's rent money, deciding they were the landlords now because they had big guns? Yeah, I wonder.
Earlier when I said I believe Gateway is just scratching the surface, here's what I mean. From 2019 to 2024, Maine had 5,113 different companies billing Maine Care.
What the There's over 5,000 companies in this state that are billing Maine Care. Now, I promise you that isn't 5,000 hospitals. That isn't 5,000 dental clinics. I don't even think there's 5,000 walk-in care clinic places in this state to begin with, right? So you have to ask yourself, what the fudge? What the fudge, right? Fudge, right? Because family friendly or whatever. I don't know. I'll probably swear later. Who knows?
That's 5,113 different companies, not different claims. But at the same time, we only had 22 employees working on fraud at DHHS.
So they had a busload of people just kind of like, yeah, that's weird, but you know what? I don't want to be called a racist for calling attention to it. This is what happened in the UK. This is what got the UK into the mess that they're in. This exact attitude of being like, well, I don't want to say it's a particular group of people because then I'm racist.
That's not just Maine Care fraud that they work on. That's TANF, SNAP, WIC, all other programs, and potential cases of fraud. 22 employees to look at fraud among millions of claims submitted by over 5,000 companies. All told, Maine spent $1.2 million on fraud investigations at DHHS in the year 2024. And to put that in perspective, Gateway Community Services billed $4.1 million during that same time period.
So it cost us $2 million some odd dollars to investigate this stuff, even though they were billing $4 million already. How about that? I wonder how many Nissan Leafs were purchased for these state employees to drive around in to perform these investigations.
This means Maine fraud investigators could spend about 9 hours for every company that is billing Maine Care. That doesn't include the thousands of companies billing SNAP, EBT, or WIC, or other programs, which they have to cover as well.
So that's great. You gotta love the room noise when somebody just decides to start vacuuming in the middle of this, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, it sounds like one of those vacuums that doesn't have the woo noise. It just kind of uses the spinning brush to pick up the crap on the floor. Lovely. Anyway, what he's on about, though, is that this is bigger than Maine Care because you got to remember, these are compounded, layered programs. Maine Care is its own beast. It's being billed by 5,111 companies. However, underneath that, there's SNAP. Underneath that, there's WIC. Underneath that, there's Aspire. So, you know, the amount of money that's being pilfered out of our pockets for absolutely nothing, oh, excuse me, the betterment of Somalia, you know.
That's just Maine Care. In 2019 2024, there were 918 new companies that started billing Medicaid.
I wonder why. I wonder what they were billing for. Probably massages, right? Massages. Probably massages.
Or roughly 40 for each fraud investigator. Companies are being created faster than they can possibly be validated because we've made it too easy to bill Maine Care.
Right. Now, this isn't that companies are being created and they're filing for Maine Care coverage for their employees. These are companies that are built to specifically bill Maine Care, and that's their single revenue source. Okay? Just so we're clear on how this mishmash is going to work.
The electronic visit verification system should not allow supervisors and bosses to have root access because this allows Medicaid bills to be created from thin air. In trying to make Medicaid fraud less likely, we've made it easier than posting to Facebook. EVV must be fixed and all EVV claims must be audited. Personal support services must be radically altered as well. We all want grandma to get help around the house or getting groceries, but PSS has become a free-for-all scam that allows bad actors to profit at the expense of hardworking Maine taxpayers.
What a surprise.
Vulnerable Mainers rely on Maine Care services, deserve honesty, and the people of Maine deserve to know why their government seems so unwilling to talk about this important issue. It's not about politics, it's about accountability, and we up here will not stop asking questions until we get the truth. Thank you. And I'll turn it over to Representative Fulton.
Thank you, Senator. I am Representative Billy Bob Faulkner, the leader of the House Republicans. It's great to see a room so full of media today, which is good because you all are part of one of the things I wanted to address.
So, for all of Billy Bob's faults on this, he actually sounds pissed off. I got to give him credit. He sounds angrier than just about everybody here. But again, it's that soft paw attitude of like, well, we don't want to disenfranchise the moderate Republicans by being too serious about this.
This is not a new story. This is a story that has just gotten too big to suppress any longer. We've been talking about this for over a year now. The Maine Wire has been reporting on this issue for nearly a year. Last winter, during the budget negotiations and after the audit, we started talking about that audit, and it showed serious deficiencies. And although those deficiencies weren't proof of fraud, it was smoke, and where there's smoke, there's fire.
Right. And so what he's trying to explain is that that audit that they performed went through and analyzed just what the state was spending on, and there were problems in there that didn't add up, okay? That's what he's trying to explain here. And I know he already said that, but I just want to clarify that that audit wasn't the, smoking gun that started this.
And there was a path leading to that fraud. And the evidence, as it turns out, did already exist. And it didn't come from any of us. It came from the state government and the DHHS. And in a floor speech last April, many, many months ago, I referenced it to the general public and had been referencing it for a long time. Program integrity audits.
Bingo.
And I referenced a nonprofit organization that had fraudulently billed 80% of their billing was fraudulent. I believe it was about $3 million they had billed and $2.4 million had been found fraudulent. That was Gateway Community Services.
What a surprise. What a surprise.
So this wasn't even a mystery to the same government and executive branch that maintained paying them. And I kept asking, what are we going to do about this? And we were being pressured to pass a supplemental budget which had nearly $120 million in money for a Maine care shortfall.
What a surprise. $120 million is missing from the budget, from the Maine care budget. Do you remember that? That was around the time when Janet Mills was saying we were going to give away sex changes to the immigrants, migrants, invaders, whatever you want to call them. I prefer invaders. We're going to give sex change operations to the invaders through Maine care. We're going to pay for that. You and me, our tax dollars. How about it?
And all we kept saying was, we would like to see some fiscal accountability, fiscal responsibility, and to address this fraud. And what's happening? Are we going to get the money back? Are we going to stop paying? What are we going to do? And we kept bringing this issue to light, but it wouldn't get reported on. And I even had this letter that I wrote to the governor with the questions that we wanted answered.
Another thing that was not covered by the state media. Now, you might ask yourself, why wouldn't WABI and WLBZ2 and the rest of them out there even nibble at this? Why wouldn't they just bring this up for, some clickbait, right? Because they're in on it. You have to remember, when it's not money that's coming to them, it's social placement. You have to remember, within the Democrat community, it does not matter how much money you have, how much money you get. It's your social standing, your social credit score. So if you're playing along, being a good person, you're welcomed into the collective. Everyone's all hugs and kisses around you because, oh, you're such a good soldier for us. Thank you so much for covering up Shanny Blowhole's BS. Thank you so much for that. And see, that's how this works. They don't want to get paid. They think money's evil. They're happy to struggle, complain, whine, worry about their bills. They're happy to do that if it means that people that you and I, don't want here are here, annoying us, destroying our fabric of life. Because you have to remember, like I said at the top of the program, the Democrats hate Maine. They hate Mainers. They hate the United States. They hate the culture of the United States. They hate white people. They hate Christians. Anybody who isn't that is their favorite, and people who go along with that in their party become favorites because, again, the goal is to destroy the fabric of the nation. The goal is to destroy the culture of Maine because they are insulted by it. They think that they're evil when they show up to these parades that celebrate our history. Belfast, where I ran for mayor, used to have the Broiler Festival that celebrated the chicken factories. And they had the Broiler King and the Broiler Queen, a parade, all this stuff. They had Bayfest. They had all these different things that went on there, but were slowly ratcheted out because, well, we don't want to tell people we're proud of being white. We don't want to tell people we're proud of our heritage. That would be racist. Being proud of where you came from, being proud of the wealth generators in your community, that's bad. That's bad. You should be celebrating the destruction of your people. You should be celebrating the desire to overthrow your culture because it's wrong. Your culture's wrong. Even though it's not. The culture is the reason why we're all here, right? And what you'll get is that these people won't relocate to places that they think will be better for them. They won't do that. They come here to change it. They come here to tell us that we're wrong. It's kind of like what confused me when Janet Mills came out and said, we need diversity in Maine. Maine needs diversity. And I was thinking, what are you talking about? You can go and look at any of these tourist videos from even before the Great Migration began, okay? This is back 2015 or before. And you can look at these tourist videos that describe life in Maine or a top 10 towns in Maine or where to go on a vacation in Maine. All of the comments are uniformly telling you that Maine people are great. Maine people don't treat people differently. Maine people will help you out whenever it needs to happen. So I'm still confused about what Janet Mills was trying to drive at, that we needed diversity here. Okay? Now, I'm not talking about like we need to make sure that all the people that are not purely white Irish, French, Irish descended, right, need to leave. I'm not telling you that. That's ridiculous, creates a lot of violence to try and accomplish that too. So it's just completely, it's not the problem. What I'm trying to refer to is that Maine being, I believe at that time, 96% white was terrifying to people like Janet Mills and Shani Blowholes. The very fact that all these white people were living together, mostly in harmony, was terrible. It was awful. As you know, with the Democrats, when more than 10 white people are in a room together, we're just going to like werewolf transform into Nazis. We don't even need a full moon. We just need to be in the presence of 9 other white people and boom, we just transform into Nazis. It's the craziest thing. You have to understand that's how the Democrats think, unless it's their white people who have proven that they hate other white people. And thus, well, here we go.
Medicaid analysis, program integrity audits, SNAP and TANF spending analysis on non-citizens, general assistance audit reports, housing assistance audits, general purpose aid. I was running around with this letter back then, last spring, handing it off to people, reporters, anybody, trying to bring this to light. But the response, unfortunately, from you guys was the same one I was getting from upstairs. This letter, I have still not had an answer to this letter.
You're not going to get one, and you know it, pal. But I appreciate the effort of trying to go through the proper channels, even though the Democrats don't care if you do or not.
So it turns out that, like I said, that fraud that was happening that has existed all along has just gotten too big to suppress. And this nonprofit, Gateway Community Services, there are 14 individuals being investigated by Congress. And one of those individuals sits on the Appropriations Committee.
Once again, it's burying the lead with this stuff. Deca DeLocke needed to be the first part of this conversation for all of them. They needed to hammer on that as their opener with that. I mean, I appreciate what Billy Bob's trying to do is he's trying to show that the media is just not paying attention to any of this, or at least not reporting on any of it. But it's just burying the lead on this stuff. You just keep hammering that name, and it'll eventually stick, at least in the people that are observing this stuff this way and conversing about it over coffee, right? At McDonald's or wherever you gather to have your coffee before work, they'll talk about this. That's what you need to happen. In Maine, a lot of this advertising stuff is useless. Word of mouth is where the most power to convey your message is. And it just matters to get like 100 people that are on board with this, and they'll talk. They'll talk to other people. Pretty soon you've got 10,000 people that are aware of what's going on.
And we believe that that is a serious conflict, that someone under investigation by Congress with this level of fraud should sit on that committee.
And again, it's one of those things where it's very dull. Like, we don't think that this person ought to be here. It should be like, we don't believe that if you're committing this level of fraud, that being connected to it should allow you to sit on these committees where money is being determined where to go. That's the kind of delivery you need. I know I goofed that sentence up, But that's the kind of delivery you need. You need to be angry about it. Go ahead, lift your fist about it. This is ridiculous. And the fact that the media has shut out completely any truth about it until it's become a national problem, the fact that the Augusta government has completely shut out any conversation about it should be the reason why your fist is in the air over this. People want to see you angry. They want to see you passionate about the problems. Billy Bob, you're going to term out anyway, man. What's the point of pumping your brakes? What's the point of holding back? You can't, you're out, man. You termed out. So just do it. Go hard. Go for the throat, metaphorically. Go for the throat, metaphorically.
So we do not believe that Representative DeLocke should be serving on the Appropriations Committee.
Crazy,
we'll be sending
right?
out a letter to the Speaker asking him to remove her from that committee. She can go on another committee. We're not saying that she can't be on any committees.
Wrong. Until the investigation's over, she should have no power. She should be under censorship until the investigation is over. That's fair, right? They kicked Laurel Libby out for posting a picture. So, you know, but we got to make sure we're fair over here at the Maine Republicans. We don't want to be bullies or anything. We don't want to be bullies. She just can't be on the committee about money. You can put her on the committee about where to put these people and how many should come in. You can put her on a committee about firearms if you want to. Put her on a committee about taxes. She just can't be on this one about where the money goes. I hate this. I hate it with a passion. This individual should be censored. No votes, no committees, no opinions until the investigation is over. And if she is found guilty, immediately thrown out of the state Congress and immediately on a plane back to jabroni land. I don't care if she disappears into the willy wax and we never hear from her again. There has to be some kind of punishment for what's happening here. A lot of this, like, well, you know, she could be on another committee. No.
We believe in fairness here in the legislature.
That's one-sided, bud.
The majority party has no problem removing Republicans from committees, as they've done many times since I've been in the legislature. I can think of 3 very recent ones off the top of my head. Has no problem at all with that. So with this level of fraud that has come from Gateway, which not only was Representative DeLocke an employee, she was a very high-level employee at an organization that committed fraud to the tune of 80% of their billing levels, found through program integrity audits that I've seen leaked. Now,
So again, burying the lead.
I would like to get my hands on some of those that aren't leaked. I would like to have my letter responded to, and I'd like to get to see all the program integrity audits from DHHS. But that letter will be going out later today, and we want answers. And as we're going into another supplemental budget, we want this fraud addressed, and we want some fiscal responsibility, and we want this stuff cleaned up before we go into those budget talks.
You hear that? We want the trash taken out, Billy. But you know what? If you don't get around to it, Billy, we'll just let it go. We'll let it go. It's okay. We're kind of maybe sort of a little bit perturbed over this. We're kind of it would be nice if we could do something about it, but don't rush. Don't feel a rush. It's okay. Just kind of maybe consider it, you know, put it in the suggestion box.
Good afternoon. I'm Representative Katrina Smith. I'm the Assistant Leader of the House Republicans and the Representative for District 62. I'm here to tell you today that my constituents and the constituents of my caucus members have had enough. The tax-paying citizens of Maine have had enough of fraud, waste, and lies. The people of Maine understand that we have a fiscal responsibility to keep our roads fit for travel, to care for those who need our help. And we don't mind that money comes out of our paychecks for those endeavors.
That's better. This is better. This is someone who is actually delivering this. This is actually good. I like this. Keep it up. Fire harder. Get those claws out. Show your fangs.
What we do mind coming out of our paychecks is money being sent to people in non-governmental organizations that are defrauding us. They're defrauding us because they are not providing the services that they claim to provide. They are defrauding us because they are personally gaining wealth from our tax dollars without doing the work they claim to do. We know that Gateway Community Services was found to have over $800,000 in fraudulent billing. We know that the money from the Lewiston tragedy didn't go to families of survivors.
Surprise.
And now, just like Minnesota and Ohio, whose fraud is numbering in the billions of dollars at this time, this $800,000 can only be the tip of the iceberg of what's really happening here in Maine. Our constituents are struggling to pay their electric bills. They wonder if they can even think of going on a family vacation this year. And look,
Find me a Mainer that's like, 9 to 5 Mainer that can take a vacation. Go ahead, I'll wait.
look, now they have a new tax on streaming services, on simple paint for their house. Their budgets are pressed, and they can't take any more, and they especially can't take money being continually wasted. It's time for a full-throated, hold back nothing investigation into these organizations and for all involved. The people of Maine are demanding accountability for the money that they send to Augusta every single day, and we are here to stand up for them. Thank you.
You're almost there. Oh, jeez. She was so close to boiling over into like some true passion about this. But as usual, the Maine Republicans are like, whoa, I don't want to come off as mad about all this. Oh, I'm just concerned.
Thank you, and Senator Stewart will speak.
So I'll round it out
Pro tip, guys, move the podium a little further away from the wall next time. Pro tip.
here, and then we'll open it up for some questions. But the last couple of things I want to say, two F's come to mind. The first being fraud by design. This wasn't an accident. This didn't just happen. It's a system that's designed by the left for people in their social circles. It starts all the way at the top of the federal government with the Obama administration, promulgated even more by the Biden administration. It runs down to the states, to governors across the country, including Governors Walz and Governor Mills. And even at the local level, you see the bad actors, you read the headlines, you see what's happening right here in Maine, certainly in Minnesota, and I would agree with what's been said so far that this is just the tip of the iceberg, folks. The other F is financial Armageddon. That's what we're heading for. If you don't think that the Trump administration is serious about getting a handle on this, you're probably on another planet.
Or a Democrat. Same difference.
This is going to have implications for the state of Maine in the billions with a B of dollars. This will spell financial Armageddon for our state. We have got to get a handle on this problem. This shouldn't be a Republican or Democrat issue, but there are some models out there that do work really well that we should be looking for to address this problem. There are some states that are getting it right. The playbook has already been written. We could copy and bring to Maine if there is the gumption of my friends on the political left to do just that.
Pro tip, there isn't.
And to start tearing away at the system that they created for themselves by design. There's one last F I'll mention too, which is this word, failure. We will not accept it. We will not accept the failure that leads to the financial arm.
Oh yeah, you won't accept the failure. Really? Can you tell me why you accepted all the failures up until now? That's right, because when we say we're not going to accept the failures, we have no teeth about that. We have no real way to do anything about that. It's just another hot air, another gust of hot wind over there in the Capitol building.
Armageddon of our state. We will continue to ring this bell, but more importantly, the folks that are involved in this, they ought to be praying that we don't win the legislature back here in about 10 months.
Don't worry, they got enough Xerox machines to make sure that you won't. That's just how it's gonna go. That's why Shanny Blowholes is running around, just completely ignoring that whole fraudulent ballot situation where somebody ended up mixing up Humpty Dumpty potato chips and registered real federal ballots. Real. We all know that China printed those up, sent them over, and it got mixed up inside of the mailing system because, again, so many things are happening in China. You never know what you're going to get in your Amazon box. And ta-da, you ended up with the ballots. Now, ask yourself, if those ballots can be randomly showing up in someone's Humpty Dumpty order, right? Their Humpty Dumpty potato chip order, what's stopping fully filled out ballots from showing up at the Secretary of State's office and her going, oh, well, this is convenient. How about that? How about that? You see, we have to understand that we're not just fighting the Democrats in Maine. You're fighting China. You're also fighting Russia. Two very powerful information dealers that really want to make sure that it's difficult to find unity here in the United States, given that we are involved in a proxy war with Russia through Ukraine. Yay, we all wanted that. And China is ramping up to take Taiwan. They surrounded the island earlier this week for funsies. They're going to do it in 27. They've committed to it. They've announced it. Xi Jinping has said that's the deadline. They're going to do it. Really weird to announce you when your invasion's going to start, because that kind of, I guess that, is it an invasion? I don't know. Like a date, I guess they're trying to set up, you know, really rough date, I guess. One of those ones where you play Nerf, you Nerf guns during the date, I guess. But that's what you're dealing with here. You're not just dealing with Shanny Blowholes and dealing with Janet Mills. You're dealing with the CCP. You're dealing with Russia. Okay, think what you will about those nations. They have a vested interest in making sure as much chaos is happening here domestically so that we can't project power abroad. Okay? So when you say, oh, we're not going to accept the failure and these people ought to be hoping that we don't get power, don't bother, dude. Because you and I both know that come November, when it's time to elect a governor and several members to our state level legislator, guess what? The Democrats are going to win. They're going to win hard, and they're going to completely shut out Republicans. And we're all going to say, well, I guess we were too mean. And see, that's what it is that you guys don't have a vision. You're not coming out with a solution to this. We're just barking into the wind. Just barking. We're mad. We're so mad. We're not going to accept failure even though we have no power to not accept failure. Interesting, right? Anyway. We're going to move on down the line here to find out what it's actually like to try to get your kid enrolled at one of these Somali daycares. So this is happening at the Leering Center, now covered into the Learning Center with a neat little piece of paper over it to make sure that you know that they actually spelled it right and it was only those evil Republicans that made it look like it wasn't spelled right. So anyway, let's find out how hard it is to get into this place.
Hold on, man. What you said what?
You can take a picture from the sidewalk. That's not
This private property?
Yeah, that's not trespassing.
Hey, I'm just trying to enroll my kid.
Just letting you know.
Can I enroll my kid? His name's Abdi. Abdi.
You said that. The sidewalk.
A procedure? Can I get papers?
Come back to us when we're open on regular hours.
This is the part that just completely blows them out. This guy says, come on back when we're open on regular hours. Come on back then.
It's 3:48 on a Tuesday.
It's 3:48 on a Tuesday. What are the regular operating hours, friend? You guys just operate by moonlight, doing a lot of nighttime daycare? Is that night care? What are we doing here, Chief?
This is now business hours? Hold on.
And so again, like this, they shut him down. They're like, no, you can't do that. And this is what they do, right? So when you show up to a place, the Democrats do this. They just play stupid. They know that you can't win if they play stupid. And that's what these people are doing. They're just playing stupid. That's it. They know they can't cover for this. They know they can't explain it. So they just play stupid. And they just figure you'll get frustrated and go away if they play stupid long enough. And that's what happens with the Democrats. The Democrats do the same thing. You ever wonder why they do that when you get them pinned down on something? Where they have to admit that they're wrong. They all of a sudden just don't know what you're talking about anymore. They've never heard that before. Right? You remember that? It's great. It's awesome, right? It's really what you want to do when you're running a government is just pretend you don't know what things are. Shanny Blowholes is great at this, by the way. But we'll move on down the line too, because if you're wondering, maybe you'd like to get some tax reimbursement for supporting all these Somalis. As it turns out, there might be a pathway to do that, at least to the federal government.
Welcome to the State of Maine Revenue Service's Taxpayer Assistance Department.
I know we do have a pretty big Somalian population in Maine, and I was just seeing how many I could claim on my taxes, since the majority of them all rely on my tax dollars.
There are some criteria that you need to consult the IRS regarding that.
So I need to call the IRS and find out how many I can claim?
Yep. If they meet the dependent criteria at the IRS level, then...
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're pretty dependent. So I was crunching the numbers. It looks like we have 30,000 in Maine, and the majority of them live off of our tax dollars. So I was just trying to go through the process and find out how many I could claim for myself on the tax forms.
Yep. If you want to determine that, you'd have to contact the IRS.
Okay, thank you.
The guy on the other end of this, right? Like the Enquirer, he does this cold calling thing where he goes through his strategy with them, where he either pretends to be on their side or he pretends to be unaware of what's going on, and gets them to talk about things. Like the most notorious one was like the guy that hates white people up in Holton. That's a bartender at that underground bar there. That's it used to be the Governor's Restaurant, but the top side shut down, so now it's just the underground bar, the Down Under, I think is what it's called. He's a bartender there, and he was going on and on to the Enquirer about how much he hated white people and blah, blah, blah. But this Maine Revenue Service worker, I think he's in on it, okay? Because he didn't just hang up the phone like, another one. He didn't hang up the phone. He deliberately directed the Enquirer to the IRS at the federal level. Because if you go raising those questions at the federal level, who's already got this investigation going on, you're probably going to end up helping that investigation. So I think he was talking to a guy on the inside that, of course, wasn't going to get himself in trouble by relaying, yeah, dude, you call him up, you tell him this, this, and this, and they'll start an investigation. He was careful because these calls are recorded, not just by the Enquirer, but by their own database for training purposes. But really, it's to make sure the employees don't goof. So that's where that lies, okay? I think this guy is on our side, and he's trying to refer people, rather, up to the federal level where there's some action happening on it, knowing full well that there wasn't going to be any action happening in the Maine Revenue Service. So that's pretty interesting to me. But we did have a lady from Brazil that was pointing out some things about her culture that are kind of on the horizon for ours if we're not careful.
I want to talk about how the average American is starting to feel as major corruption is being exposed, especially now with the case in Minnesota and the daycare fraud. This is not just about money being stolen anymore. It's about a growing feeling that being a good citizen, being a hardworking person, paying your taxes may not be worth it. People are starting to feel stupid. They think, well, I'm here, I'm playing by the rules, I am working hard, I'm providing for my family, I'm doing the hard work, and I'm the idiot. You see the memes online and we laugh, oh, me on my way to work, thinking that I should have just opened a daycare center in Minnesota and made millions. And again, it is funny, but it's also deeply sad. Because the next thing is, why am I even doing this? Right. And that's the part that no one wants to talk about, because this kind of feeling shapes culture. I come from Brazil, as you know, and in Brazil we have this thing we call the Brazilian way, which is the idea that there's always a shortcut, there's always a loophole, a way to take advantage of a situation.
That sounds
and people
familiar.
think it comes out of nowhere. Oh, it's just the Brazilian way of living. No, this comes from years of Brazilian people being robbed and nothing being done with the thieves.
Again, we are very close to this point where we lose our societal trust in our institutions, our trust in our neighbors, our trust in our own ability to remain law-abiding and still survive.
So we now think that survival means cheating the system before it cheats you. Eventually, people stop believing that being honest is rewarded. When a society teaches its citizens that being honest makes you a loser, well, that's really dangerous. You don't just lose money, you lose trust, you lose dignity, you lose the culture that holds it all together. And once that's gone, it's really hard to get back.
Exactly. Now, I don't know how long that'll stay up on TikTok, but I imagine not too much longer. Either way, we need to come back over here. Now, this is what's going on in Minnesota. There's a street named after Mohammed Abdullah Hassan. Now, what you need to know about him is that he was a warlord in Jabroni land and decided to wage jihad against Britain and Italy, causing more than 200,000 deaths. But here's a fellow speaking in Sandland, telling you all about it. So much phlegm. So much phlegm. But of course, he's out here telling his people that this is their place now, that they own this. There's no subtitles for a reason. This guy is addressing his people and he's telling them that this is their land now, that they have taken it, that they could come here and escape the wars and start over and help them, purify Somaliland or Jabroni land, whatever they're calling it. And that's what he's doing in this video. He's letting them know to come here, build their numbers up, and then create a no-go zone where they just effectively own Minnesota. It's not like Tim Walz or anybody in power over there is trying to do anything to stop that. Because again, they hate, you gotta remember, Democrats hate you, hate America, hate me, hate their state, hate their culture, hate their skin color, more than anything else in the world. More than anything else. You got to remember, Islam is is based out of a child abuse cult, okay? Muhammad defiled Aisha when she was 9 years old. There's the Hanbali school of Islam that explains, this is the teaching of it. It's a school of teaching. It's not like an actual school where you sit down and learn something. It's a school of teaching about Islamic faith practices that says a family cannot resist a man of any age, 50 or whatever, 30, 50, 60, whatever, wanting to marry their 9-year-old daughter. The family cannot resist this. The other school on this is that you cannot consummate the marriage with her until she is having her period. Some other schools say that you can't consummate the marriage with her because it may kill her, so you have to wait until her body is mature enough to withstand intercourse. That's right in the Quran and the Quranic teachings, okay? The Quranian, I don't know what it is. It's right there. You get about halfway through the Quran, that's when Muhammad got booted out of Mecca and had to go to Medina. And at that point, he decided he was just going to be an edgelord and murder everybody until he got power. And he did. So what you're dealing with are people that are centuries-old products of a child abuse cult. And they think they have power over you. They think they're superior to you. And the Democrats, who hate you, hate me, hate our country, hate God, hate our skin color, have decided that a child abuse cult is preferable to their neighbor. Think about this as you go through your daily work. Think about this as you encounter Democrats, and remember, they hate you. They hate you more than anything in this world other than you, okay? What you represent is something that makes them gnash their teeth, things that make their blood pressure go through the roof, simply by being a peaceful, law-abiding, white Christian Mainer. You are driving these people insane. That's what you're dealing with, okay? You're not dealing with sane people. You're not dealing with rational people. You're not dealing with people who even want to hear a counter-argument. Okay, I'll remind you, within 36 hours of Biden being installed, okay, he wasn't elected, installed, the government had opened up a communication portal, not like a wizard portal, but had opened up electronic portals to communicate with the Facebook, Twitter at the time, and Instagram, or Instagram's owned by that, and YouTube, rather, to threaten them, by the way, unless they complied, with removing voices that the White House did not want known, okay, want heard. You remember that, the laptop thing? That got vamoosed off the internet? Wow, right? I wonder how much else has been vamoosed off the internet because it was just inconvenient at the time. But that's what you're dealing with. You're dealing with people who wholeheartedly do not want to come to the truth. They know the truth. The Democrats aren't stupid. We want to pretend that they are, but they're not. They know. They absolutely understand that they are supporting a child abuse cult. They understand that. They absolutely understand that. There's no way around it. I'll remind you, in Somalia, almost 80% of the population believes in clitorectomies. This is female circumcision because in Islam, you don't know this, they don't tell you this part, the religion of peace, in Islam, it is a sin for a woman to experience pleasure during sex. Remember that? That went around the country a few years ago. I think it was a Dr. Nasir or something like that. She was performing something like 100 to 200 female circumcisions a year. Yeah. But the Democrats understand that. They know that because the money that's going to these Somalians, it's going to these groups, is also going to those doctors that perform this. I'm sure Medicare was billed, MaineCare rather, was billed for female circumcision. Now, I don't like circumcision on either side. You can call me all kinds of names, whatever you'd like. I don't want anybody circumcised. I don't want the destruction of healthy human flesh. I think that's evil. I'm the lone guy out here that opposes cosmetic surgery. If you got a cleft lip or your nose formed wrong and you can't breathe right, one of those eye sockets is a little misaligned, I don't have a problem with that being corrected because it's a health issue. Can't keep your eyeball in your face. It's important that you keep your eyeball in your face. It's just polite, you know? So it's a good idea to support that stuff, but I don't support filling a chest full of like 10 pounds of silicone in order to make a lady feel like she's getting enough attention in the room. I don't feel that it's necessary to bust up a face so that way your cheekbones are a little higher and you look like you got guppy lips on the front of you like a fish. I don't think that that's good. So I am 100% opposed to circumcision, transition surgery, all of this stuff, completion surgery as it's called now, because we can't call it what it is. We got to use all these mystery words. That way nobody can directly converse about what the problem is. I'm opposed to all that. You can call me whatever you like. I don't want to see boys circumcised. I don't want to see girls circumcised. I believe that's entirely evil on both ends of that spectrum. 1,000% evil to do that, okay? I can get into psychology around why it's a bad idea to do that to a child. I can get into the psychology about that. There's this thing called reactive attention deficit disorder, and it starts with very young children. It starts in infancy all the way up to, I think, about 4 years old. It can happen afterwards, but this is really a prime marker of when this starts. Reactive attachment disorder teaches a child that no one's coming to help them. So they go around, and when the first sign of a relationship weakening happens, they detonate that relationship. You've met people like this, that the minute you're not 100% on their side, they become your worst enemy. You could have been best friends, but because you weren't one-to-one with them on a single issue, you have to be destroyed now. Reactive attachment disorder teaches that they can't trust anyone else. There's no one to come and help them, because what happens in these informative years when they're an infant up into being a toddler, when mom and dad don't respond to the baby crying, the baby is then learning that crying does not get them help. That the pain, hunger, tiredness, whatever has brought them to that crying state will not be remedied by their parents. A child is strapped down to a table or held back by their parents while an incredibly sensitive part of the body, there's more nerve endings in your genitalia than your fingers. Surprise. While an incredibly sensitive part of the body is carved up. I'm having a real hard time not just hulking out right now. I'm just having a real hard time not just saying some real insane stuff, you know? This is from the same group that wants children aborted, by the way. The Democrats support all of this, and they want the children aborted on top of that. Almost half of the Zoomer generation was aborted. If you don't know, go ahead and Google that for a little piece of horror. That's what you're dealing with. You're dealing with people who are wholeheartedly okay with the absolute destruction of an innocent human body, an innocent human soul. A decision that will irrevocably ruin that child's perception of reality, their relationships, every part of their existence that has a foundation in trust will be obliterated for nothing. Call me what you want, but it's for nothing. It doesn't help health. You're going to tell me that God's wrong. You really going to do that? You're going to sit there and tell me that God's wrong? That foreskin and the clitoris is there by accident, a mutation? The devil put it there? Is that what you're going to do? Is that what you're going to tell me? I don't think so. Because you're smart. You have logic. You have the ability to weigh the correct statement with a negative statement. So do it. And commit to that. We're all tired of this jump rope game where we can't talk about the thing that's actually the problem. Well, there it is. You want to know why there's so many psychos running around? You want to know why all these people are the way they are? Why the women in Islam are just so fruity-tooty? Now you know. Because very, very early on in their lives, they learned that they cannot trust anyone or anything, and they must submit entirely to abuse. Because that is the only way they could survive. I don't live in a world where good things happen a lot. You don't either. But I don't think we ought to be adding to the chaos, the violence, and the destruction. I don't think so. I think there's plenty enough going on with earthquakes, hurricanes, plagues, be they man-made or otherwise. I don't think that we need to be adding on to that with all of these crazy ideas about how to mutilate a child. But that's just me. I'm crazy. You know, I'm crazy. I'm out here on my own saying all this crazy stuff. You know, that's how it goes. But you too, you're out here too. Feeling it, seeing it, noticing it. And it's time we stop talking about it like the Maine Republicans going out and having a neat old press conference that they themselves admit is not going to accomplish anything. All of this hubbub here in December and January, it's going to be completely burnt off by September and October when we need to have firepower to bring people to the voting booths. Not guns, I'm talking about political firepower to bring people to the voting booths. But guess what? All this is going to be burned off by then. And again, nothing is going to come of it unless the federal government continues to get more and more involved. And I don't know if the willpower is there to help Maine. Here's a neat little secret, okay? Here's a neat little secret that nobody really wants to talk about. I'm just going to jump back over here to the main wire. Nobody really wants to talk about this because it's scary. It's terrifying to people who kick the can down the road, who let all of this happen because, well, you know, they had bills to pay and a family to support and football to watch. There wasn't enough time to go out and make sure that the government wasn't completely haywire and participating in wars and plagues and murder, destruction of healthy human flesh. There's just too much football. When Mr. Homan and ICE get in here, and they will, and they clean out these invaders, really clean them out, I don't believe we are going to have 1 million people left in this state. It might be close, but I don't think we're going to have 1 million people here anymore. In the 36 years that I have been alive and lived in this state, I've been here my whole life, only vacationed out here a few times. I believe, I've calculated it anyway, that we've only picked up around 100,000 people in my lifetime. Now, that's statistically impossible unless we have so much outbound migration, right? That even inbound migration is only canceling it out in a little bit, okay? Even all the invaders that Jan went and stuffed in here. Now, she admits that 100,000 have been brought in here. Like 75,000 have been brought in here. So that's why I say, when they remove the invaders, the ones that we have documented and the ones we have not documented, right? Like that Chinese guy that'd been here for 20 years, never bothered learning the language, neither did his family, and then all of a sudden, he gets popped, right? I don't think he's alone. So our old folks that have been telling their children for generations now to go somewhere else and make money, but please come back to retire, right? Well, that's not working anymore. Why would you come back here? There's nothing here. The roads are destroyed. Everybody's just kind of off on their own little thing. Nobody's united around anything anymore. Why would you come back here and raise a family? What's that kid coming into, right? Nothing. Like you did. You had to leave here, so why bother? So rather than sitting here and trying to make a big stink about this fraud thing, right? Because this is going to boil off. Take notes on what you want to talk about during the election. Because it's not going to matter come September. It's just not. All this is going to be gone out of the public zeitgeist. There'll be some other tragedy that's taken over. This is how it works. And that's how this rolls, okay? So rather than doing all this, we need to put a vision forward. There needs to be solutions to this, right? Now, of course, had the Maine government followed all of the laws in place that are surrounding fraud protection, we wouldn't have got here. But that means we need to make sure that we're passing laws that make people liable for this failure. Because right now, there's nothing. Let me tell you this, okay? If the Somalis get deported, like I talked about with Deca Delac earlier, Somalia is a non-extradition country. That means that they do not send people back if they don't want to. And Deca Delac is treated like a goddess when she goes over there, like a queen. So they're not going to do anything to cause her any ill problems. So that's that. In reality, what we're really looking at here is that there's no way to collect this money back from them. There's no way to retain this money in any way that really matters because they don't have any assets you can seize, okay? They don't have any assets that you can claw back from them that were not purchased with public money. And because of depreciation, because these properties have been left just to rot into the ground, you might be able to get back 30% of what was awarded to them. Maybe. But you're not going to get any of it from the people themselves because once they're deported, they're disappearing. They're gone forever. They're gone. It's just not going to happen. You throw them in prison, they're just going to find all the programs inside of the prison to resist having to do anything other than sit around and wait for their time to end. So their debt to society won't be repaid. They'll just be hanging out in jail. And that's, again, at more taxpayer expense because you've got to pay to keep them alive in there. And that's just how this goes. They know it. The Somalis know this. The Democrats know it. That's why they're running around acting the way they are, because they know there's zero repercussions that can be practiced upon them for this. Zero. And so that's that. That's the reality of it. After all of this, there's really nothing that can be done. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to be the lone guy out here that'll tell you the truth about this situation, that you can't get it back. The Democrats knew it. That's why they did it this way, because there's no way to get it back. And there's probably enough shell companies in between everything that anybody cycling that money back into the Democrat Party, you can't find them anyway. And that's what they set out to create, let alone what it mutated into over time. We have to make a decision, and we need to stick to that we're going to put a vision forward with solutions, real concrete vision of what this state looks like in 20 years. 20 years sounds like a long time to you, but we've been kicking the can down the road for 40 years. The infrastructure, the ports, the shipping ports, the airports, horrible condition, guys. Absolutely horrible condition. That's not even accounting for the education system. That's not accounting for the medical system. That's not even really accounting for the reality, right? The reality of just how screwed up the financial system is here for workers, right? Being taxed into oblivion, energy rates into oblivion, all this other stuff, right? So again, the compounding factors here are going to take some time to work through. We can't just slap a solution down on the table and it gets copy pasted done. A lot of the solutions I hear from the gubernatorial candidates are very short term, are like in the next 5 years sort of plans. And I know that makes sense for business, but you can't think about government on a 5-year cycle. You just can't. I don't want to praise China, but they've at least shown us that long-term planning leads somewhere. Whether it's good places or not, their mission gets accomplished. It takes a while, but it gets done. It may collapse too, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to glaze China here. I'm just trying to explain that when they made a decision to pursue something, it usually got done. We need to commit to this. We need to commit to a 20-year vision for this state so that people who are starting their lives here, people who may finish their lives here, have a reliable trajectory to work inside of. These 5-year plans do nothing more than make sure that you get a medal around your neck for the 1 or 2 things that got right during your tenants, during your time in office. And that's all those 5-year cycles do, is they serve to give you a trophy for the 1 or 2 things you got done. Rather than having a 20-year arcing plan that delivers Maine to a completely different economic status, to a completely different infrastructure status, to a completely different culture as far as what is today is. Because I don't know about you, but Maine doesn't really feel like Maine anymore. It's an economic zone, right? A zone where you can make money. That doesn't really feel like a state to me anymore. It's very difficult for me to go and find a place where culture's happening and we're not just sort of rehearsing for something. We're not just sort of acting out what we think a culture is. It's very concerning. And it has all been in pursuit of survival here. And I'll leave you with this. My parents used to have a saying. They used to say, no one lives in Maine, they only survive here. Ask yourself if that's not true. Do you live here or do you survive here? Because I've never lived here. I've only survived in this state for my entire life. We don't live like the people in Massachusetts live. We don't live like the people in New Hampshire live. We certainly don't live like the people in Texas and Florida do. Moreover, Florida these days. You have to put a vision forward. You have to have a view for the future that extends beyond your time and power. It's the only way anything's going to get done. That's why the Democrats continue to dominate in this state, is because they put a vision forward. They say, we're going to give you free stuff. And then they do. You and I have to pay for it. But their base expects and gets what they were promised. It may take them a while to wrench that money away from us, but they do it. And what do? We go, darn you, we'll get you in the next election. And that's it. 50 years of that. 40 years of kicking the can down the road. 50 years of being like, well, next time. No. Here and now, 2026, because 25 is over in a few hours. In 26, you have to plant the flag. We, as the Republicans of Maine, the conservatives of Maine, the right of center thinkers of Maine, have to plant a flag. And we have to stand by that flag for more than 5 years. And that's what I wanted to impress upon you. So, for all intents and purposes, the thing to remember is that something bad is obviously going to come out of all of this. Some staged event, something awful is obviously going to come out in order to distract people from the Democrats being pinned down. This is what always happens. So I want to stress to you, do not go out there talking about violence. Do not go out there talking about retribution, about vengeance. We go out and we talk about justice. Wherever you go, wherever you're raising hell with these people, lean into the message of justice, not vengeance, not revenge, not any type of thing that could be moderately misconstrued as an attempt to enact harm on anybody. This way, when their stupid little plan comes together, they don't have anybody to blame. I know that's dark. I know that's paranoid. But we live in a time frame where this is a theme that continues to play over and over again. So I ask you, don't implicate yourself in things because your rage gets the better of you. Rather, pursue this with justice in your heart with a clear view of the future on your mind. Until then, Happy New Year, good luck out there, and as always, stay safe.